Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Godzilla -1. I don't know what that means, but that's what it's called. Joining me tonight, first up from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
Next up from the Bay Area of San Francisco, please welcome Rachel to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me back.
And last up tonight, from Manhattan, New York City, please welcome John Schnars to the show.
Hello, Eric.
I only have one topic I want to talk about tonight, John, and that is Godzilla's absolute dump truck of an ass.
Godzilla got a wagon.
And like man pecs for some reason. We can talk about it.
I'm not here to keep shame you, Eric. That's fine.
I like immediately when the movie opened, I was like, who is this gentleman? And then, so I posted that in Slack. Also, apologies, like 90% of the questions tonight are about his ass, and that was 100% my fault. Joe Perry said, I motioned over to my wife and whispered out loud, "Ooh, Godzilla's thick," and she promptly put her hands over her eyes in embarrassment. So there you go. Notably different from the Godzilla in the last couple American movies, I would say.
Well, yeah, we can talk about it, but this was produced by Toho versus those which like are licensed and produced separately. But yes,
of course,
American beauty standards, not even kaiju.
We like them trimmer around here,
right?
It's not that American Godzilla's trimmer; it's that he's more proportioned. Like he is thick all around, whereas this Japanese one, it's like he's like a T-Rex kind of. Like he's like there's nothing from the way his waist is like this big, and then he just goes out like
he skipped our
triangle.
What you're saying?
What this Godzilla is like old school T-Rex versus the American one
They
is
updated
like
it.
what the modern T-Rex like ideas are.
Way to ruin my joke by explaining what happened. Thank you.
I mean, either way you look
Yes,
at
anding
it,
you, my friend.
either way you look at it, at least it's not Godzilla 2000.
Fair.
Oh, that's true.
That's correct.
All right, well, let's find out what it actually is, and we'll be right back.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the front time. Main feature.
Rachel, I'm excited to have you back on the show here this week.
I'm
One
not
of my
used to hearing
favorite
that.
like current running jokes is how I feel like John is 1 week away from just calling you a communist every time you're on. Like that's his new joke, is that you're just like this like West
I don't know
Coast.
where that's coming from, just to be clear.
Because you don't
I
remember
would
what happens
never-
on the shows after Rachel
That's
knows.
true. I do block it
Rachel
out.
knows. All right, John.
Rachel, unless you want to be a communist, in which case it's cool.
I don't know. I would like to wrench the means of production out of your hands, John.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. The eternal struggle. All right, John, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word is kamikaze. Kamikaze, Kamikaze. So I think hopefully everyone is aware. This is a word comes to us from World War II, a Japanese aircraft loaded with explosives and making a deliberate suicidal crash on an enemy target. It can also be the word for the pilot of the aircraft. And then it can be used as an adjective to, basically describing someone who is making a kamikaze style attack. And then more generally, reckless or potentially self-destructive. It's a combination. Yeah, delicious. It is the combination of the Japanese words kami, K-A-M-I, meaning divinity, and kaze, meaning wind. Divine wind.
Is that John? Kami?
Rachel, you talking about you again?
Kamikaze.
You called?
It's comrade.
but-
actually, sorry.
Interestingly, so in Japanese tradition, it is a reference to the wind, a gale that destroyed the fleet of the invading Mongols in 1281.
Look at that history.
Kamikaze. I know. It's a history lesson.
I like it.
Well, look, this is a history lesson of a Godzilla film.
It's
Yep.
true. This is now historical canon in my head. This movie.
Yeah.
John, why don't you tell
Yes.
us about Godzilla -1?
Okay.
Does anyone have any idea what that title means?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we can get it. I mean, we can get into it. But like, I did a little bit of research. I'm gonna ask Casey or potentially Rachel. I mean, anyone else, feel free to jump in on like Godzilla overall lore because I'm certainly not an expert. So this is the 37th Toho Godzilla. It's the 33rd Toho. It is the 37th Godzilla film.
That's
And
insane.
according to Wikipedia, it is the fifth film in the Reiwa era, which was basically a reboot of Godzilla that started with Shin Godzilla in 2016.
Yeah.
So
On Slack were explaining to me today what Shin Godzilla is. I have a
Shin
a
Godzilla,
loose enough
great.
grasp on it to get it wrong when I explain it later.
I knew Shin Godzilla. I didn't know there was like 5 of them in that era.
well, there's 3 anime films that
Oh,
Toho
okay.
produced, so there's not another
That makes
live
sense.
action Godzilla in this era of films. Yeah, because I similarly was like, I thought this was the second one, but the film is set in, I think, 1947. Well, most of the action takes place in 1947.
It's like the
but
end
it,
of World War II, basically.
Well, it opens in 45, which is at the end of World War II. The main character, and of course, I'm not looking at anyone's name, so I'm just going to be like calling him Guy. Koichi. He is our main character. He is a kamikaze pilot. The film opens with him effectively like chickening out on his kamikaze flight and landing on an island sort of like base that's there, like a mechanical refueling station sort of out in the middle of nowhere. It's like rando, tiny little island. And while he's there, Godzilla attacks, kills everyone else except him and one other guy. Now
Kinda
this
like
is
mini Godzilla attacks.
yeah, it's like
He's
the
like
baby.
a teenager.
Because canonically, before this film had come out, Godzilla doesn't even first appear, I don't think, until the first film's like 53 or 54. And Godzilla is like created by like the A-bomb testing and so on and so forth. That's like sort of nodded to here, but this sighting of Godzilla in 45 sort of like in canon now would be the earliest Godzilla sighting, I believe, is my understanding.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
how I
and
took
he's
it.
just like a local, like the locals, the people on the island are like know who he is.
Yeah. Which like
They've never seen it. It's like a myth, but there's no explanation. There's no like, because it's like sort of a prequel-y, but there's no origin. It's not about.
No.
really.
It's not like where you don't see like little baby Godzilla coming out of an egg necessarily.
Oh, that'd be cute though.
I think the American films do show that, don't they? If I remember, at least one of
Who
them.
knows?
In any event, all right. So Koichi gets off the island. They basically like that Godzilla attack is like not is forgotten or at least like not made a deal of. I don't think.
Well, I think everyone was dead except him and the mechanic, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
even
and there's like I think there's some propaganda around it being like they mentioned that there was like a massacre on the island, but they like blame it on the Americans.
the Americans, yeah, they cover it up, and this is all
they
in the
blamed it
context.
on they blamed it on Rachel and the Russians. They
They're-
interrupted the trading lanes or something like that with
There
their
you go.
support, U.S. support, I think.
Right.
So
right.
this is all happening at the end of World War II, where Japan has now been nuked twice. Like it is like a lot of the context of the film is about the Japanese mentality and sort of like the culture of Japan in that moment post World War. So Godzilla -1. My understanding is year 0 is the day like. It's the year after World War II ends, basically. It's like the new Japan after it. And so Godzilla
Essentially, the blast is 0. Right?
Yeah. And so this is like -1 is like they now have to like deal with something and it like takes them takes them back. -1 is like pre-year 0, if I'm like understanding the name of it. So, yeah, and so
Dude,
Koichi,
he's a wizard with fire breath. That's all. That's
he goes, Koichi goes back. He is living in Tokyo. Tokyo has been firebombed like dramatically, so it's like truly like a shell. I mean, it's not even, there's like not
Yeah,
buildings.
they do a great job with like the visuals there.
Correct. He's like, and so he then starts living with a woman that he sort of runs into on the street who has adopted a baby whose parents were killed in the bombings. And they like live as this family and are trying to basically like survive, if like very traumatically, I would say, for several years. And so like then we start to see him climb out of his issues. I mean, he's carrying around the shame of his failed kamikaze stuff, the trauma of the Godzilla attack, and also all the like cultural stuff that's going on in Japan. She is like trying to raise this kid, and it's really, it's like not going great for a little while. Luckily they have a neighbor who had raised 3 kids who all died during the bombing, and so like she's helping out a little, and they basically start to like gradually have like a nicer life. Unfortunately now like Godzilla is like a real thing and like starting to make himself known itself. Do we gender a Godzilla? I think it's a he, right? We go with he, but
It's a great question, John.
so Godzilla, it's like gradually like making its way around the Pacific, and they can tell through like whatever seismic readings, and there's like radiation readings, and like boats are getting attacked. Koichi starts like working as a minesweeper on a boat, in just like one of the wildest jobs like anyone can have, I would say.
John, I have an answer for you on Godzilla's gender. In the original Japanese films, Godzilla and all other monsters are referred to with gender-neutral pronouns equivalent to it.
There we go.
While
Okay.
in the English dubbed versions, Godzilla is explicitly described as male.
Interesting.
The revolution. I don't know. That's defying gender roles from 1950s. That's impressive.
There we go.
Interesting.
Okay, so that is what's happening. The boat, I mean, like, do you want me to explain the entire boat? Because, like, basically at this point, this is when, like, Godzilla is, like, now a threat to Tokyo. Koichi and, like, this crew of people on this boat kind of becomes central in a civilian organized attempt to save Japan. And this is where, like, there's a lot of geopolitics that come into play because Japan is not allowed to have an army, famously, after World War II. And the Americans are basically saying, like, hey, you're fucked because, like, we don't want to get involved with this Godzilla thing.
Because they're distracted by Russia.
Well, they're worried that Russia will, like, interpret it as, like, a attempt to, like, establish a aggression in the Pacific. So then the civilians basically have to, like, band together and heroically fight Godzilla in just, oh, my God. One of the greatest scenes.
Wow, John's jazzed up tonight.
Yeah.
All right, Casey, what'd you think?
From the sounds of it, I'm up there with Schnars. I was pretty jazzed over this movie. I was kind of blown away. It is great, and which is not common in a lot of Godzilla movies, I really connected with the story that's happening in between Godzilla and the characters with Koichi and his little family that he stumbled upon. And, like, the emotional aspects of what he's dealing with and the cultural aspects, like when he comes back home and the way he came back to his parents' home to find out his parents were gone, and the neighbor that Schnars mentioned, was his neighbor when he was a kid, and she knew he wasn't supposed to be back. Her first reaction wasn't excited to see him. She's like, what are you doing here? This is bad. Starts slapping him and calls him a coward. That's heavy stuff. So you piece that together with Godzilla stomping around and destroying shit. It's just an A+ movie for me. And, like, the Godzilla scenes, him wreaking carnage and the fights were really well done. It was just super impressive. And Godzilla is so aggressive in this one, more so than, they kind of lean towards he may be the protector. No, Godzilla's pissed off and he's just, he's going for it, which is a nice change too, especially from the American ones. So,
Rachel?
Yeah, I tend to enjoy big dumb monster movies. Like, I like the crowds fleeing, I like the buildings toppling, I like the mass destruction. That shit is fun, right? You know, like maybe there'll be some cool world building or something like that to spice it up. But I go in with very, 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 very low expectations when it comes to the quality of the story, the human stuff, any of that. Like, I don't expect to care about a single person. So I was really caught off guard, like in the best way possible by this movie. I absolutely invested in every single one of those characters, and this movie had stakes in a way that no Godzilla movie has for me ever before, which was fun and definitely enhanced the experience. I thought it nailed all the monster action, which is of course a big part of this. Like those scenes in the water that are kind of like Jaws, like you know, reminiscent, are really tense and fun, and there's some really cool stuff that happens with Godzilla himself in those. I don't know if we want to spoil that yet, but and the design of Godzilla, like I love that it's this. I know we're joking about him being thick, or they are thick, but I do like that they maintained some of that sort of like camp and silliness of the original design, while also like updating it and making
That's
it,
what the American versions do, is they sort of take out the silliness of it, and so there is something fun about keeping the visual silly stuff but making it so dead serious otherwise.
Yeah, and the thing is it vacillates between the silliness and being genuinely terrifying. Like when it's roaring in the city in those moments, like it feels very threatening. Or even when those like ridiculous puppy dog eyes, when they're just like above the water.
Eyes. Yeah.
Really?
They're like human eyes. It's crazy.
Yes, it's actually kind of fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know we'll probably talk about how the original Godzilla was like this metaphor for nuclear war and all of those kinds of things. And I loved that it kind of updated that metaphor. You know, like it's now about survivor's guilt and sort of like the festering below the surface, like coming to the surface over a series of years, in the same way that it's happening with what's Koichi? Yeah.
Koichi, yeah.
Yeah, like all of that I thought was really powerful in a way that I was really not expecting to be moved by a Godzilla movie. Like I have some quibbles about some of the acting. There's some melodrama in here, but you know, overall,
Thank God you said it. Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's such
I
a
mean,
relief.
it's a little
I feel like I
shouty.
was going to be pulling that thread myself. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little shouty.
Yeah, I'm on board with all you guys. I really enjoyed this movie, and I was reading subtitles just like you, John.
I couldn't believe it, Eric. I was nervous.
You didn't even complain once, did you?
And honestly, so here's what I've enjoyed the new Americanized versions that I think Gareth Edwards that is working on those. Like, they are just really fun from a spectacle point of view. They really are doing the city destruction in an over the top way that like American
it's
cinema is known
global,
for,
like,
right? Yeah.
Literally, they're destroying every city.
Globetrotting from like disaster to disaster.
Yeah.
What's kind of neat here is they show that like you can still make this compelling with there's like one city's destroyed in this movie by Godzilla. Really, it's not even as good as the sequence, the Jaws thing. Like, and it is totally about when they're just like they're sort of kiting him, to use a video game term, John. But he's doing this like snake thing in the water, and those big human eyes of his, just like, that looks amazing. It looks so good. And it's like really surreal and creepy in a great way. There are times when I feel like I don't understand the physics of what he's doing. Like sometimes he just looks like he's standing in the middle of the ocean, and I'm like, could I get some movement here or something? But and I do if there's a legitimate criticism of the recent American ones, it's like all the humans are so throwaway. It's like a 30th generation VHS copy of Jurassic Park is how I would describe the human drama in the modern Godzilla things. Yeah. It's so far removed from anything compelling or interesting. And so here it's cool to see them. And I can only assume that is a big hallmark of many of these movies, is like focusing on this sort of human stuff happening around the Godzilla action. But yeah, I mean, if I have a complaint, like what Rachel's saying, and it's these two, it's the guy and the girl, like the melodrama when he's like, I never left the war. Like, of course he's not saying it in English, but like, listen,
they should have you dub this.
Not everything translates across subtitles. His over the top acting, I could read without knowing what he was like. It's a little much. And because they just keep coming back to those scenes, I'm like, I fucking get it, dude. He's got PTSD. Come
I
on.
loved the daughter, and look, she was young. Like this was like
Yeah.
a young actress.
Yeah,
I
she's
feel
pretty
like
good.
her affect was like the opposite. It was like she was like delivering these like brutal tearjerker lines, and it was
Right,
just
right.
like straight up. Like they might have even
child
dubbed
was out acting
her
everyone.
voice. Yeah, basically.
But actually, so my favorite part, though, character-wise, it's this group of dudes that that he starts working with the mind sweeping, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
specifically this Egon. He's Egon. is
I
basically
love that
what he
guy.
is.
Noda.
Yeah, he's Egon slash Yoda. Sure.
No,
Godzilla.
Noda is his name.
Noda.
N-O-D-A.
yeah. But just like he's
How
got,
awkward it is.
he's just quirky and funny, and yeah.
I
that
love the
stuff is great.
captain. That whole crew. I totally agree. The dude
They add
crew that he
life.
falls in.
They add life to it.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, at the Dr. Noda, if I ever get my hair cut, that may be an option.
That's where you're going.
It's not a bad look. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's working it.
Look, I didn't. I mean, Eric, you just jumped right over my full on
I'm sorry.
full throat. It's okay, but I mean, I did love this movie. I was more emotionally moved by this movie than I have been moved by like any movie in a while. I mean, truly, I was texting with Casey, I think, because he and I saw it like whatever, like a day or two apart, and I was like, I didn't know they could make Godzilla tearjerkers. Like this is where we are. I like 3 times in this movie, I was getting misty. I'm like, guys, like I needed to
You
bring
are human,
tissues.
John. Wow.
Oh my god, the stuff with the kid, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
I mean, this is obviously like spoiler territory. We're just gonna like get into it, but the stuff with the mechanic and like you knew what was happening. Like it was very obvious where that was going, and then I was like, oh no, maybe it didn't. And then they did it, and I was just like, yes, yeah. I was like literally in the theater, just like yeah.
What are you talking about, though?
Well,
like,
so there's this setup where there's he's a kamikaze pilot. They're talking about how the Japanese army at the end of the war didn't value life, and they didn't. The planes never even had ejector seats in them because they put. Noda is the one delivering the speech because they put such a low value on human life, and so Noda's
that's
like,
right. That's the whole thread is that like they're going to do this differently. And
we're gonna
actually value
we're gonna do
human
it. We're
life
not
and,
gonna
yeah.
lose a single and so the mechanic who he's had this beef with for since the Godzilla attack, because he froze at a moment when Godzilla was attacking, and he could have probably not really stopped Godzilla, but like the mechanic kind of blamed him for all of the deaths on the island. The mechanic installs an ejector seat in the plane that he's going to use, because the guy, we know there's some dramatic tension because we know that the pilot is planning to execute his kamikaze mission to try to kill Godzilla if he has to, which he's going to have to. And so, but he doesn't even, I don't even think the pilot knew. I guess that was what was unclear to me, is like, did the pilot know that the mechanic had put the ejector seat in? Because he shows them the lever, and they only do it in a like flashback sequence.
We see it right as they cut away, right as he's
Yeah.
getting ready to take off, and you just see like the mechanic gives him his little speech, tells him to get out of there. Then you see the mechanic say, "Oh yeah," and then they cut away.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna
Because
lie.
it's not a Japanese plane; it's a Russian plane.
The
so it
fact
has
that
an
like
ejector seat.
everyone survives and it comes together so cleanly in the end, I was a little like, all right. But I do understand like the satisfaction sometimes of a movie like this just coming to like, we're all good. In the
Yeah.
end.
Well,
But I
and
wasn't
just
feeling it.
on the melodrama point, like, totally agree. Like, I went a little bit back and forth on some of this stuff being just like culturally Japanese. Like, even the relationship between Koichi and the woman whose name I had.
Well,
I'm
and
not
not
looking
just
at right now.
culturally Japanese, but also from 80 years ago.
Well, sure, it's like the
Yeah.
40s, but like they're living together for like 2 years, and we're to believe that there is no physical intimacy at
In a
any
tin
point.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and obviously the movie sort of like ends with, or not ends, but like at the beginning of the third act, she's like, "How dare you never ask me to marry her?" I can't remember exactly where it happened, but it's just there was
tell
a
you-
lot of quaintness that I just wasn't
Yes.
sure how much of that was.
I would love someone to explain to me Japanese beds from the 40s because that just looked like the floor to me.
It was on floor. It's called a tatami
With
mat,
a
I
thin
believe.
piece of fabric
Yeah.
underneath you. I was like, God, I mean, like,
Some people say
I
it's
can
good for your
appreciate our
back.
differences, but like, how about a mattress or something?
it was tough times, dude. They didn't have food. Like, so, yeah.
Surely there was a bed in one of those.
Yeah, there was no Tempur-Pedic. If you don't have rice, you don't get a Tempur-Pedic. No sleep numbers for them.
Yeah,
You could like get some ashes together.
John,
into, like,
I'm a real-
They couldn't order
I'm
a new mattress off of Amazon.
John, I'm a
Right.
real bear if I don't get a clean 8. I don't know if you know what I mean. It was distracting me.
I think, Rachel, by the way, I actually read like more, like I ended up like reading a lot about this movie. The plane is actually a Japanese plane, but it was like a secret plane that was never actually
Right.
used during the war, which
But it
is
was
like,
made by the Russians because like
maybe.
all of the like the things inside it were written in Russian.
Honestly, that thing
interesting.
bothered me
I didn't
so
notice
much.
that.
The propellers in the back, I found so visually confusing because it kept looking to me like it was flying backwards.
well, that
Yeah.
design again, according to the article that I read on the internet, that design was like based on a real design that was like a secret Japanese plane that they like never deployed because like they started losing the war. And
There was a lot of weird
build
planes
them.
towards the end of World War II. They were. I mean, everybody was getting weird with it, trying to maximize.
But yeah, it was, I mean, a lot more of this movie than I was expecting. And you also said, like, is about the people and, like, about just, like, the brutal nature of their life. Like, the guys on the boat, the guy, you know, them coming to the house and, like, there's a couple dinners and it, you know, and then, look, I even found the scenes very engaging and moving of the civilians coming together. So, like, this general who becomes the leader of this like civilian thing, he's in the movie like whatever, less than a third of the movie. Just incredible. Like this man
He looks
as
like
a
he was
leader
born
of
looking
people.
like a general. Like he's just got that look.
Well, he's just unimpeachable. And I love he gives this speech and he basically says like, look, like this isn't the army. If you want to leave now, you can leave because you've all been through like hell the last couple of years. And like a bunch of people leave and they don't say nasty shit about him. They're just like, cool. Like now we're going to go do this thing that we got to do. I don't know. It's almost, and Eric, you were sort of saying that, like, it's almost like too genuine, you know, like but it just worked. It worked
in
for
a way
me, at
that
least.
sometimes that's fine. Yeah, it's a little different than American sensibilities. I feel
Yeah,
like.
and I think like culturally and historically, you know, for them because that's the way they came together like that. For like with coming out of that era of Japanese history, it's like that's pretty revolutionary in itself for that era, right? For that to happen.
For sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I found it really interesting because we're talking about like a lot of cultural differences and stuff, but I actually was struck by how similar in some ways some of the themes and the ideas and the criticisms of the government and war were in this. We're so used to seeing Japanese soldiers through an American lens, to see those same uniforms that have always coded in a very particular way, and have them be just so similar to the stories and the experiences and the like kind of like the themes that we see through our American war movies, like kind of it kind of revealed sort of an unconscious bias that I had and did not even know that I had. I don't know, like an invisible bias and an idea about, like, I actually came out of this movie moved in a lot of ways and also feeling like I unpacked some invisible shit in that I had absorbed like culturally through American war movies. So I don't know, like that's more of a personal thing than a review thing, but I do feel like it makes the movie, it levels up the importance of this movie and the representation that it provides for people who like only watch American films to see, I don't know, to see it in this way.
It's the value of watching movies from other countries, right?
It is. It totally is.
No, there's not going to be an American film, certainly at this budget level, that portrays Japanese soldiers and their lived experience of World War II. Yeah. So, like, that has to come from Japan at a certain level. And it is. It was incredible. I mean, like, again, like, it sounds ridiculous to say, like, I learned something from watching, like, a Godzilla movie. But like,
No, I totally did.
Certainly culturally and sort of, again, whether it's obviously the action of the film is not historically accurate, but the milieu that it's set in can be. And I, I guess I take on faith that it is like based in reality. This is like blowing the doors off in Japan. I was looking at the box office. I should pull it back up, but like it's like one of the highest grossing. I think it's the highest grossing movie of the year for Japan.
Wow.
And it's
Yeah.
the highest grossing live action Japanese film in the United States ever. So
Well, and, like, I was fascinated too. We hadn't even brought it up yet. Like the fact that Koichi and how he meets like that Noda and the captain of the boat and everything. How he meets his little group of friends is he finds a job just to be able to feed him and this girl and the baby he found, and his job is in a boat finding and dismantling mines. You know, like 6
well, they're not
million or
dismantling
whatever.
them; they're
Well,
blowing
them
up.
up. Yeah.
Yeah,
That,
I loved it.
That whole scene when
That's-
she's telling him, she's like, "That's too dangerous," and he's like, "No."
He's really good at it.
I really enjoyed that montage.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, it was awesome. Well, in that sequence, I mean, you all were talking about the sequence in the ocean. That scene when they're using the mines to try to stop Godzilla.
So good.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So
That's a
when it
scene
just-
too with the effect where we see his face kind of regenerate, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually
Yes.
was like, open mouth when his face regenerated. It's like
Yeah,
I was
like you knew
expecting
something
that.
was gonna happen.
Yeah. We didn't talk about it. I did read. So this director, I haven't seen any of his stuff, but he's like big time in Japan. Like multiple Japanese Academy Award winning and things.
Interesting.
It's just like kind of wild, and this is like the power of this franchise, that he's like one of the very best directors in Japan, and like when given the opportunity to work on a Godzilla film is like, yep, and like here's what you get. I was trying to think of like what a corollary would be. You know, it's like,
Well, he's the writer too, so they just
Oh,
gave him. They
yeah,
like go do it.
It was like carte blanche. Yeah, it's like, I guess Coppola making like
Transformers.
Dracula. Well, I mean that would,
Yes.
Godzilla's been around since the
Like
50s. Like
Martin
it's like a whole little
Scorsese directing Friday the 13th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my
I guess
version.
there you go.
Robert De Niro as Optimus Prime. It'd be great.
You know, John, Quentin Tarantino did write a treatment for Halloween 6.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
Now you do.
Michael
And
Myers'
then-
first word's gonna be the N word.
Every time he stabs somebody. And
Good times.
Anyway.
And there be a barefooted woman.
I
And that was the last time I was on Bloody Good War.
I think I mentioned maybe last week when we were talking about seeing this. I have been watching Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. I don't know if anyone else is watching it. I go back and forth on it being awesome and then it being just like ridiculous and a waste of my time. But it is so interesting to watch in the context of and we were talking about the difference. Well, and the other thing that came out literally the week this movie was released is the trailer for Kong X Godzilla : The Lost World. I
That
think
trailer, I'm not feeling great about that trailer, to be honest.
it's one of the craziest looking things I've ever seen, and not in like a fun, cool way. Like, it's basically they're turning Kong into the ape from Rise of the Planet of the Apes. What was it? I can't remember what his name was. The like
Caesar.
Caesar.
Which
Yes.
Also, did you guys get the trailer for that?
I haven't
before the
seen
movie?
it yet.
it.
No.
I knew there was
because that trailer's out too.
That looks
Yeah.
amazing.
there's the new one of those.
I mean, the moment we saw Kong's robot hand come out of the hole in the trailer, I'm like, oh,
Remember when they stared at each other through the earth?
Yeah, through the earth. Yeah. There's no
each other down.
Where is
staring
the sun?
at people.
I don't understand.
No, exactly. The light just like comes from everywhere. It just like emanates from.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's magma.
Well, you got me there.
But it is wild, like what you know, to see what a like very high end Japanese production is doing with this character, and then like in the U.S. it's just like I don't
It's like
know,
the
they go to
exact
the middle of
opposite.
the earth
Yeah.
now, and like
But
they have
they've
like
been- I mean,
families that they miss.
They have
or
been
something.
fun. They're just, the American ones have been fun. They're just very disposable and forgettable in a way that this isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I guarantee you I'll remember much more about the plot of this, and I already don't know anything about the other ones, and I've seen them.
Yeah.
I remember
true.
that in one of them, was it King of Monsters, where Boston gets destroyed?
Well, like
'Cause there's
half
a
the
big-
world gets destroyed.
There's
in
a
that
big
one.
scene in Fenway where they're like, that's where they're playing the recording from or something.
Yeah, because that's when we got all sorts of kaiju.
I can't remember which one.
I like
Yeah.
that we're all just remembering our geography because I'm like, I remember the Golden Gate Bridge scene.
Well, that's pretty prominent in Monarch.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, good. I get to have this bridge anxiety reignited.
Yeah, you
Excellent.
like live that over and over. Yeah.
Indiana didn't have any.
Yeah.
Like, no kaiju
It was like
attack in
a
Indiana.
small
Burn and ate
kaiju
the
like pushing
cornfields.
over a
Yeah.
pushing over a silo.
It's just a cow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, Godzilla.
Yeah, there's. I mean, we're running the risk of just saying, remember that one part? Yeah, that was cool. But there's just so many. There's a lot of cool little scenes that separate themselves. Like I was talking about with when we see first Koichi go to his new job and that whole sequence when they're hunting mines and we see how they do it. It's fantastic, and it even plays in later in the final, showdown.
Mm-hmm.
And even that final showdown, when they started talking about this and stuff, I hadn't really pictured it in scale as they're describing it. So that whole opening scene when you see the 4 ships pull up and you realize what they're doing with the empty ships, I'm like, oh snap.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved the young guy who's on the he's like the young guy on the boat who didn't fight in the war. Yeah,
Yeah.
the kid. And there's like a very emotional scene where he's like getting super pissed because he like wants to fight Godzilla and they're like, "No, you weren't traumatized by the war, and so like you need to sit this out because like you have to basically like help Japan not be fucked in the future." And he ends up saving them, and it's like very fun and cool when he comes in with the tugboat crew. But
The tugboats.
even
That was very
sequence where
American
the
action movie because
know.
they show up and then they're all instantly in formation and attached to
Yeah.
the thing.
yeah, no, I mean
One cut. That was a cut.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
happened.
they were all
appreciated
great
that-
tugboat drivers. So
I just appreciated that every time there was an opportunity, like I think in an American film, I kept expecting the other shoe to drop with every character. I thought the neighbor was gonna like do something to screw them over. I thought something was gonna happen with everyone appealed to their better nature, and
Yeah.
normally that would be too sweet for me. But there was something very cathartic about the kindness at the center of this movie that I was also really surprised by and appreciated.
Yeah.
because you remembered that 2 nuclear weapons had been dropped on the country, like just
Yeah, but
one
we
year
see
before.
what America did when like things go poorly. Like we don't appeal to our better angels very
Fair.
often. So like it
Yeah.
felt very affirming in a way that I was also not expecting.
Joe Ferry on YouTube brings up the score
Yeah,
Yes.
it's good.
by Naoki Sato.
I love Joe's profile picture on YouTube, by the way. It looks
Yeah.
amazing.
I like
Oh,
how
it's a fox. Look at him.
they use these cues that sound like they must be from the original movies
Yeah.
because they just sound like old school movie scores. But in this kind of updated thing, I love that just like dun dun that big the Godzilla theme that pops in is really cool.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on Godzilla scores, but there are definitely strains that show up throughout the score that definitely feel familiar, from that world.
Yeah, it's like modern with a touch of the
Yeah.
old school, which is I like when movies do that.
It was
John,
good.
You did some research on this, and I didn't have time. So I wanted to look something up, and I wonder if it came up when you were looking. The end of the movie, we kind of get a little tease about what could be coming next with the neck. Did you happen to see any explanation for what's happening with Noriko's neck?
Oh,
Oh.
you
I
mean
missed that.
I've seen speculation online.
There's like a little.
I
black
thought you
mark
were
on
talking
neck
about the
that
Godz-
grows.
I thought you were
guys
talking
not
about the
notice
Godzilla regenerate.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I don't
She had
think
like
I
a
no,
red
no.
spot.
And it kind of like.
See, I
I
didn't see
don't
the
know.
bubbling part, but like,
JK.
most of the speculation I've seen online is radiation burn
Got it.
because
just
Godzilla
felt-
is shooting his giant atomic breath
Finish
a
it.
couple times, right?
my assumption is like they're not gonna try to retcon any further, and that this movie is meant to just like bleed into 53 and like the canon Godzilla timeline. But maybe, I don't know. This is where like I'm not an expert enough on like what they are doing with the Reiwa era and like the total relaunch. And maybe they are. Maybe they're gonna do one like a new 53 or a new 54, and it's like whatever. But the like last shot, at least that I saw, was the part, like the little tiny chunk of Godzilla that was like falling down into the water was starting to bubble and regenerate.
Yeah.
What?
I saw a comment pop up. Let me turn off the comments. Because this
Levi
one
says there's a theory online that she's pregnant with Godzilla's baby. LOL.
I mean, there's a theory online for everything, I think. So
Yeah, I've seen radiation sickness, but I mean that's part we didn't mention too, because that's a big part of the story. Where after,
God,
what was the gentleman's name? But she goes
Koichi.
to get Koichi, and Noriko gets a job in Genzi.
yeah, Ginza, I think. Or,
Ginza, that's it.
something like
And
that.
she gets an office job there, which is the first place that Godzilla comes to land. So then you have the heartbreak of that going on, and Koichi has no idea what's happened to her, and you don't know if like what Rachel's talking about could be a holdover from that. It could be radio sickness. It could be Godzilla's baby.
He tries to go save her, but she ends up saving him,
Right.
and gets blasted, and you assume she's dead until, again, another tearjerker scene. He gets a letter after he survived the Godzilla attack that's like, hey, just kidding, she's still alive, you gotta go see her. And then there's like that final scene.
That was a point. I was like, really? Where everyone's just fine. Like,
No,
all right.
I was just clapping. I was
Yeah.
like,
That's what I was
love
scared
about
of.
that scene.
I love how this movie really touched on this like optimistic thread for you, John, and I was over here just like, whatever. Dude.
brought me in.
Now that was where I got misty-eyed, so I'm with Schnars.
That, if we want to just hit on a couple other scenes, the scene where she's on the train and then
That's a great scene.
it is so well done.
I mean, listen, we haven't talked about it a lot, but the one city destruction scene is like, it's not the most epic, self-indulgent thing you've ever seen. It's a couple of really simple setups that just make you feel the weight of what the people are experiencing. The train is one of them. The other great one is the reporters on the roof and them
Yeah, that
watching
was a
him
good
from a kind of like bird's eye view.
Oh, I
Like,
loved it.
And again, it's like not, especially after seeing the American ones, like you're not going to top that action, but it's really well done.
Well, you can top the action by just like, to your point, being
really
a little more
thoughtful.
Yeah, well, and maybe a little more like meat and potato action shots rather than like trying to go big CGI blast you in the face
Right.
moments, because that's
Right.
there was some blasting. I mean, the Godzilla blasts are still quite
Yeah?
strong here, but
Tell me more.
yeah,
Well, that city
the
destruction
junk in
was
the trunk when he wants to get that rolling, it's
The junk in the front.
He's been doing like that.
Well, that city destruction scene that we got, that was the first time we saw his blast, right?
Doesn't he do it in the water one time too?
Oh yeah, he may have.
Yeah.
I can't.
I can't remember what happened.
I know.
Sorry.
Thank
know.
you,
I'm
Eric.
too immature for this conversation. I can't do it.
Thank you.
I already knew as soon as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, this isn't gonna go well.
I don't
Tell
care.
me more
I'm
about
plowing
this
through.
blasting. Hear all about his blasting.
All I know is the first time that for this Godzilla, the first time the spikes started turning blue and shooting out his back, I'm like, oh, it's on.
Yeah.
I liked
love
the
that
little
design too.
the little like
Yeah,
tactile, like the spikes loading, like when his blast is loading and he goes like that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
We must move on. I don't know how
Strong
much
agree.
longer I can. I don't know how much longer I can keep it under wraps. I'm trying to be a lady tonight,
know.
okay, guys?
Oh Lord! All
I
right,
try something new.
What? Would you recommend Godzilla -1, Casey?
absolutely. And I think your time's running out, but go see it in the theater.
Rachel.
5 out of 5 Godzilla blasts. Definitely recommend. For me.
I was gonna say I had a blast. Yeah, it was good. I would recommend
Yeah,
it.
thumbs up for me, and I'm maybe the toughest one to please in this scenario, John. So, it's a ringing endorsement. 4 thumbs up. All right. I cannot see at all. Like I literally. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail. I might need some new.
Did you get your eyes dilated or something?
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
You see how my progressives are going? Checking my text. I have to lift my glasses up.
Man, I think I'm gonna have to get progressives. I've started taking my glasses off to look at my phone, and I was like, yeah, it's over. My youth is gone.
And we're back. Once again, Rachel's in the show, and we rejoin mid-conversation. I'd have it no other way at this point. info@bloodygoodhorror.com's email address. No emails this week, John. They put one hurdle between me and signing into Twitter, and we gave up on that platform forever. Yeah. So there goes 60,000 followers on Twitter. Whatever. I didn't.
What will the porn bots? Where will the porn bots get there?
Exactly. Yeah. All that engagement we get from the 90,000 bots that follow us. Okay, a couple things on the agenda tonight. We got our Spotify Wrapped, John. Spotify Wrapped told me that our audience grew almost 30% on Spotify specifically this year. John's response, instead of saying, "Hey, go team," John said, "I don't believe those numbers."
Wait, did I say that?
Yeah, you sure did.
I don't remember that, but okay. I think I was referencing a different number, but in any event, okay.
So there you go.
Yeah, go team.
Go team. John, you were pre-show chiding Rachel here about her additions to the year-end list.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Look, Rachel, I salute you for your completeness in making sure our list was as extensive as it could be.
There were so many more I didn't put on there. That's the worst part. As I was like, I'll only put these on. These other ones are obscure.
How are you watching so many movies?
Well,
I didn't say I watched them all.
yeah, I
but-
assumed you hadn't watched all of them.
Okay.
No, I haven't watched them all, but they were all ones that are like because we have our own top 10, right? And so I have a running list, and I just picked the ones that were like buzzy and like I thought maybe had potential.
I do. So we are in the year-end vote counting stage here. We're not done all the voting, and so patrons have a week more to vote. The staff, we will be collecting votes right up until probably the end.
I have that. The link is pinned in the random channel and in the Big Show channel if you're looking for it in Slack. But also if you're not a patron, patreon.com/bloodyhorror, and you can vote today, John.
Yeah, it's on Patreon, even if you're not in Slack. So you can go there. What was I saying? Oh, so I went through the thing I always do is I go through the list and I just mark the shit that I've seen just to like remind myself. And then I sort of do like a short list. I like try to chop down the scene list. I think I was up to 43 movies this year, that's pretty good for me. Pretty good. So yeah, get a couple more in before the end of the year. I'm feeling much better about my top 10 now that I've like done a provisional pass. I'm like, not bad. Especially, I'm putting Godzilla on, and guess what? It's going to be really fucking high. It's going to be high.
I got to do that right now, John. Thanks for
Let's
reminding
go.
me.
Let's go.
John, I'm not used to seeing you this enthusiastic.
But Eric, like as we've been discussing all year, I feel like your feedback has been that it's been very weak at the top. Like there's
very.
depth to the year, but there had not been a movie where you're like,
I mean, maybe I'm out of it tonight, John, but I think I'm going number 2 for this.
Okay.
Ooh.
I feel good.
Megan does not feel like even a number 2 to me.
No, it does not.
There you go.
Casey, this article you just shared about Godzilla Friends, like I'm not gonna be able to get through this one.
No, well, it's a reference because
I was
it's
just
going to
speaking
come
of
up in a
articles.
minute for
in my
threads.
Google. I would like the record to
yeah.
reflect. I would like the record to reflect, John, that Godzilla's gender actually very much up for debate. So, the first when you search Godzilla
Rachel solved
gender,
it for me as far as I'm concerned.
the first real article is called It's called The Complicated History of Godzilla's Gender. So
By
What's
Alex
the,
Jones.
I was trying to figure out in this
I was
movie,
gonna say, what's the publication? Yeah, it's
are
some,
they
like,
saying actually
Caller,
saying
whatever the
Godzilla
hell
in
it's
this
called.
movie, or are they saying Gojira?
No, they said Godzilla, I think.
Yeah, because that's what I
Yeah.
thought. So, but I thought it was originally weird translation or something, and now they just. I was wondering the thread on that.
I don't know.
All right,
Also don't
great. Thanks, guys. A bunch of people on Slack. I'm trying to see if any of these were real questions or if it was all just butt stuff.
Wow.
Rachel,
These people
which Godzilla do
sincerely-
you think is the thickest?
Son of
Number one
Godzilla,
question.
duh. I mean, look at those legs. Look at them thighs.
Zach, would Godzilla be considered a weapon of ass destruction?
Jesus Christ.
Make that booty clap.
Would you rather fight a Godzilla-sized duck or 100 duck-sized Godzillas?
I've been thinking about this.
I have two, and I haven't. And I think the answer is a Godzilla-sized duck because he still doesn't really have any weapons, whereas those little ones still got that laser.
Yeah.
Right,
They're
they
pretty
still
big
got
on a duck.
atomic breath, right?
Right.
Ducks are also very rapey.
Yeah.
Weird penises. That being
You're worried about
said-
being overtaken by too many.
Could be. It could be a lady.
Get
It's a
out of my dream
gender
journal.
Neutral.
First of all.
Oh my God, guys.
I'll take my chances with the Godzilla duck, I think.
Here's a real question from Steven. If you had a chance to be any kaiju, which one would you be, and which city would you destroy?
Is
I'm
this
going
the list
Mothra.
that you sent?
I'm going Mothra,
Casey?
and I'm going.
No, but it would work.
peaceful.
You're
Yeah, I'm also going
peaceful?
Mothra. But I want to fly, and she's the prettiest one.
I like a
so
good
definitely
healer.
Mothra.
You know, I like a good healing energy. I don't need to destroy anything, John.
I'm going to be Mecha Godzilla.
Mecha, yeah, that's a good.
That's a
Yeah.
good one.
I did love how dumb Mecha Godzilla was in the American
Yeah.
one that came out a couple years ago.
How about oh shit, where'd it go? King Caesar.
Yeah.
I'm pulling that off Casey, the thing Casey sent. He aided Godzilla in destroying Mecha Godzilla.
Oh, he looks so ridiculous.
Yeah. It kind of looks like
she?
Jabba's buddy on the barge. The little bird thing.
Yeah.
No, what it looks like is a villain from Power Rangers.
Yeah.
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 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I
totally.
think he was in Psycho Gorman, I think.
Also, I mean,
Yeah.
they were just pulling whatever they had in costume at that point.
That's pretty much it for questions. And then Levi posted a pic of Shin Godzilla. And just for reference, because he's even thicker. Like, he's even more like, he
Yeah.
looks like a genie bottle or something.
Well, the arms were almost like smaller, I feel like.
Little T-Rexy
Yeah.
arms. Like
They're
very
pulled
tiny
in more.
arms, yeah. That's why, I don't know, man. The design choices or something. And then I had them explain Shin Godzilla to me. We don't need to recount that. Anyway, what's on Threads, Casey?
Alrighty. We got a couple out here. Excuse me. First up, we have Metal Prof. I really liked this movie, but thought it severely abused coincidence in time and place. Such as having Koichi be right there for Godzilla's first two appearances, and being right there to scoop up Noriko after the train incident. Do you agree or disagree? Can you think of other movies that did this? Sorry if
There's
this sounds like an
definitely-
essay prompt. I tried to
There's
come up with a
definitely
non-jokey question for you.
No, there's definitely some of that going on. I think we covered all that.
Well, him finding her during the attack on Ginza was absurd. Just like she's running in like a huge mob, and then he just like shows up. And you're just like, wait, what? How the hell did he get there? But
Yeah. I mean, I could write off the first attack as, wrong place at the wrong time, right?
sure. And then he has the job where you would be running into Godzilla during the second attack. Like those two, I was fine with, but those two connecting during the attack was definitely, I was a little like,
Yeah.
I'm glad they're there for each other. You know, I was clapping, mostly, just like
He did it.
he got her.
I'm not comfortable with this version of you, John.
All right.
I think I told you I went to see this in the middle of the day, on a work day in
probably
in the
helped,
IMAX
honestly.
theater.
Yeah.
Oh, well, in the
Oh,
IMAX.
I bet it was
it's
cool. I bet it was
incredible.
cool.
It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
really good.
Was it like the size? Isn't IMAX like a weird frame size as well?
It was
shape?
it was it's super tall, but this was they didn't like stretch it. It was it
Yeah.
mostly played like
Somebody right before the
like
movie
Letterboxd.
started, those little things came down in the theater, like it's in that wider
Yeah.
whatever film frame.
It's like Letterbox.
And somebody like close to me in the theater went, "Why did they take part of the screen away?" We used to be a goddamn country.
what I didn't even look what the aspect is. It two
Oh,
two three
bless their
five? Is that what they show?
Something like what is that? Anamorphic
Yeah.
or something?
All right.
Americans and
We're
our
all
serving
just saying
sizes, am I
words.
right? They don't even want our movies cut down.
Next up, and this is what the link is for, Schnars. This comes from Asian Cinema Film Club. Which Godzilla ally or foe would you like to see make a return? Happy holidays, y'all.
Can I say King Caesar again, or I can?
Yeah, man.
The other one that I was laughing at, I think it's called Manila or
Yeah, Manila.
Manila? Is it Manila? Okay. That one looks
yes.
ridiculous.
That's the one I was going to say.
Yeah.
I don't really
So there you go.
know.
Unless we can count cartoon. I think it was the cartoons and they had Gadzuki.
Oh, Manila is Godzilla's son.
Yeah, that's the one that's
Yeah.
thick. That's the one I said.
I mean, he's definitely thick, or it is
Yeah.
thick for sure. Yes.
they, jeez,
They
it.
they are
Problematic,
thick.
John.
All right.
Problem.
Rachel. I'll tell ya.
Sensitivity training incoming. Ooh.
All
I believe
right,
it's they is thick, John. I think.
Okay.
Right?
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Please.
last up we have from Popcorn Designs. Are you sad that Godzilla didn't use his atomic breath to bore a hole through our planet's crust and make direct eye contact with someone in the center of the Earth in this movie?
That was especially like made me angry because it wasn't just that there was like a direct line. It was that they made a point to show in the movie that it was like a warp thing. Like it was like a
Yeah, they look like they're maybe 150 feet apart.
right, exactly.
You guys remember this way better than I do.
It's the only thing in that movie I remember because it was so absurd.
Fair.
Not the pterodactyls flying around in the center of the Earth. That sequence.
That I was fine with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the sun's setting here in center of the Earth. Yeah.
All right. Is that it?
I got
Casey,
you,
for
Rachel.
throws?
That is it.
Okay. Instagram. Do you remember Godzuki from the Godzilla cartoon, or is it just me? That just came up, right? So that's Godzilla's son.
No, Manila is Godzilla's son. Gadzuki was another character from the animated versions, I believe.
Okay. Here's a question I'm not qualified to answer. What is the best Godzilla movie minus this one? Okay, we see what he did there.
Yeah.
I'm not qualified to answer this.
No, I'm not. I mean, I saw Shin Godzilla, and I've seen all the American ones. I actually was contemplating. I want to go watch the first one just because I've never seen it. I feel like I have to. So.
What if my answer was that Matthew Broderick joint? Credibility lost.
Your video just like cuts out in that one. It's like
That's enough internet for
whoops.
you.
Yeah, we've had just about enough of you. I actually don't know that I've ever seen that one all the way
I
through. I
I
we
saw
used to
when it
put it on
first
in the
came
video
out,
store.
yeah.
It's what was it, 96
Sure.
or 98 maybe? I don't know.
The Matthew Broderick one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
98.
97 or 98.
Wasn't the
yeah.
twist that
98.
that Godzilla was a girl?
Yeah, well there were Godzilla eggs. That's the thing I remember.
So that's funny because I could remember that Matthew Broderick Godzilla when it came out because that was the first time I went to a surround sound theater because we had just moved to Indy.
There you go. You were blown away. It was like,
Yep.
is
Ooh,
the Godzilla all around me?
rain's all around me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, John, there's a bunch of stuff on Instagram, and none of them are actual great questions except this one.
Wow.
Just
Someone
going
else
hard.
is just
Godzilla.
deleting their Instagram right now.
Little
Like,
boy
I don't even know
brew.
why I bother.
Godzilla, more likely to make it clap or drop it like it's hot. I did not see much evidence of clapping, so
Yeah, that seemed pretty tight, that aspect.
right. It's not. There's not a lot of movement happening there.
I have no comment on this one, so I defer.
I feel like
Actually,
the
this one
tail
too.
gets in the way.
Not
of
even
the...
a question. Anyone get more passionate than a Japanese soldier? I can't even shave regularly. Relatable.
Right?
That's it from Instagram, John. That's all I got tonight. Yeah.
So we're gonna make one more attempt next week at Poor Things. Is that that's what we're hoping?
Yeah, if we can get it.
That is the hope.
No, it doesn't come out till the 22nd, so that's not going to cover us this week.
Well, it's already out. I mean, it's expanding. It's
No.
I don't
but
know if
Casey and I can't see it until at least the 22nd, which is next Friday.
okay.
So that won't work for this.
Yeah, I think the 22nd is when they said it went wide.
Okay, so we're gonna figure out what we're watching next week, and then you guys are gonna have to see Poor Things before we do our year ender.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it, but we won't be able to do a show on it, so we need something else next week.
Okay. Rachel, I'll be pinging you for suggestions.
Have you guys seen Where the
I'll
Devil
pull-
Roams yet?
No, is that
I haven't heard of that, Rachel. That makes me nervous.
Well, did you see Hellbender? Did you see? Did you like
Oh.
that?
We're not doing that.
JK.
Yeah.
John, would you like to see Where the Devil Roams? Because I feel
I'm
like you
pulling it
might
up.
be my sole ally. Oh no,
This
Casey's
is,
a man of taste and sophistication.
what are they called? The family? This is
Addams.
the family. The
The
Addams.
Addams family.
I just worry about what's going on with these kids. Let me tell you, the Addams.
Really?
Nah, they'll be fine.
Rachel, where can people find you when you're not here?
Well, I'll be off watching Where the Devil Roams by myself, apparently. But you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, all those things at ZG Podcasts or Rach Pants.
Love it. And John, people still have time to get in their votes, right, for year-end stuff.
Sure do.
Love it.
For the patrons,
Patreon.com.
your
and check-
voice must be heard.
If you're already a patron, check your inbox or head over to Slack where we have the link pinned.
I am
we should
gonna-
say it's like ranked choice voting, right? Or like you don't need a whole top 10.
No, you don't. You vote.
If you just
and-
have a favorite movie this year, you could just vote for that one, and
Correct.
it won't mess up the system. Because some people were saying they kind of felt like they didn't watch enough to vote, but I was like, it's actually better if people just vote on the stuff they liked.
Yeah, correct. If Godzilla isn't on the ballot, I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna check this, but I can't remember if I got it on there or not. So consider
There's already people on Slack who said they will not vote for Godzilla because it's not a horror film.
that. All right, I did. It's on the ballot. Okay, good.
I had the same reaction you did.
I do
Johnny.
what I
You know how
want.
feel about that. Yes,
I mean,
that's
look,
literally what I
we
said.
were discussing this pre-show. Beau is Afraid is on the ballot. Godzilla is on the ballot.
Yeah.
I saw Poor Things, as I was telling some folks before the show. It's about as horror-y as Beau is Afraid.
You put Beau is Afraid on the ballot just to keep me
Yeah,
happy,
yeah.
and I appreciate
Yeah,
you
I know.
for that.
And so Poor Things stays on too, and Godzilla stays on. I was saying to Rachel, it's a big
tent.
tent of horror that we have here.
That's
so
right. Love it.
there we go.
All right. That's it for Godzilla -1. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.